Hello there, Parth Sharma this side, bringing you the chess classics. Do take time to like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. You can also support me financially on Patreon and PayPal. The links are in the description because your support is my motivation, which keeps me going. So, we joined game 9 of 1984 World Chess Championship match between Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov. After losing game 7, the score was +3, 3 wins for Anatoly Karpov, and Garry Kasparov was looking totally out of sorts. And so he had to take a timeout after that game, and he played game 8, and he got a decent position, not so winning, and he managed to end that in a draw. So some respite, some rest did something good to him. So we joined the game 9 of that championship match between Anatoly Karpov and Garry Kasparov. The ninth game. This is one of those famous games that is somewhat is lost from our memories. But this is one game that I like the most. So Karpov with white pieces opens with 1d4. He continues this in game 9 as well. He won a beautiful game, the game 7, where he had chances, and so did Kasparov, but Kasparov made some mistakes and eventually gave the game away. So we are continuing that game 7. This is all played in that game. Queen b3, the novelty by Karpov. Knight a5, queen c2, bishop g4, knight f5, rook c8, and here in game 7 Karpov played knight takes e7 check, rook takes, and game continued like this. If you haven't checked that out, you may as well check it in the I tab, which is at the right corner, as you will see. But here after rook c8, Karpov diverts. Obviously he would have prepared this with his seconds and with his helpers that knight takes e7 wasn't a good choice. So he prepared this and played bishop d4 in this position. And this position is not easy for black to play because this position creates some positional weaknesses for black if not played carefully. So let's consider two possibilities here. If black plays bishop b4 here, then comes knight e3, bishop tucks back, queen a4, bishop takes c3, bishop takes c3, knight c6, rook fd1, very strong move, placing the rook in front of the queen, so queen comes out of it, and rook d2. So through this, white has retained two strong bishops and gained a good advantage with other rook coming to the d file and strengthening the white's position immensely, because there's a chance of playing rook a d1 and battery down this pawn, and these two bishops look very strong indeed. Another possibility after playing bishop d4 is to play queen d7, and this also doesn't work that well because after knight takes e7 check, queen takes, queen a4, knight c4, the forced move, h3, bishop e6, queen a7, and white gets a pawn and a very strong initiative, a very good attacking initiative in this position. So understandably, Kasparov playing very safe. Remember, he's -3 in this position and he hasn't opened his account in first 8 games, and Karpov is already +3 and just needs 3 more wins to retain his championship. So he plays a very forced move to save bishop c5, and that's a good move. So bishops were exchanged, rook takes, and knight e3. Now this looks very absurd looking move. d4 will fork these two knights, but white is safe. If d4, then rook a d1, pawn cannot capture because of the pin. So knight c4, knight takes g4, knight takes g4, knight d5, rook takes d5, queen takes c4, rook d7, and rook d2, and the position looks very good for white. There is a spearing pressure on this d pawn, and a better bishop eyeing this b7 pawn all the time. White has a very good position. So after knight e3, there is another interesting try, that is bishop h5. Let's have a look at this position, bishop h5. But then plays rook a d1, so placing the rook against the queen, knight c6, and now this is a threat d4, and there won't be any easy way to come out of it. You can tuck the queen here or here, but let's see what happens. So knight e takes d5, knight takes, bishop takes, knight b4, queen f5, threatening the bishop as well as this. Bishop g6 would be met by queen takes, and the position would be quite playable, but rook takes d5, knight takes d5, bishop takes e2, so black will get its exchange back. Knight c3, bishop takes d1, and rook takes d1, and this position is somewhat okay, but white has a very good initiative here and a superior playable position, to say the least. This queen looks very active on f5 square, and this knight can be easily kicked away by playing a3. So this is a very good position. This is also a playable position, a very good position. But after knight e3, Kasparov plays bishop e6, which is also not bad, and Karpov plays rook a d1 in this position. But let's have a look at the moves like rook f d1, because what happens if queen c8, then you can bring this rook here. That's the thing. Let's see. Queen c8, rook a c1, knight c6, queen a4, rook a5, and rook looks a little bit passive here. But after queen h4, king h7, this is very important. The aim is to play g5 here, so that's why king comes to h7, protects this pawn, and in this position white can get a good initiative here. Another possible try in this position after bishop e6 is to play, let's say, well, the next try is to play rook a d1, which was played in the game. So he plays queen c8. Let's have a look at another move. I have done a lot of research on this game. So let's have a look at the move like knight c6 in this position. And then what happens now? Well, then white gets a good initiative indeed. After everything is exchanged, e4 might think that taking opportunity of this pin, but black has two knights against white's one, so it isn't a winning a piece. So rook e5, queen b3, just coming out of this rook spin, knight a5, and queen a3. White is doing tremendously well in this position, but this knight looks very odd at the edge of the board, and this queen is always eyeing itself on this a7 pawn. Ideal move would be to play knight here, or to say b6, but things aren't bad either. So queen c8 played, queen a4, attacks the knight but already defended. Rook d8, giving more protection to this pawn, and also queen was eyeing this square for a diversion, so keeping everything safe for the moment. Rook d3. Obviously if you played d4, then there can be things like rook battery down here and won't be any time to take because rook will be attacked. So a6, keeping very safe here and also ensuring that knight b5 doesn't happen, otherwise it would have been too nasty. And here let's look at another move, and this move in my opinion would have been a better move in this position, is to play knight e takes d5. But then comes bishop takes, rook fd1, so this bishop is pinned. If it moves, then rook drops the back, knight c4, queen b3, queen c6, e4, queen c7, and now pawn gets the piece back, knight d6, rook e3, rook e8, rook takes e8, and after knight f takes e8, this center pawn is too strong for white, and this center pawn, this extra pawn I should say, is too strong for white, and black won't have enough counterplay in this position. After, let's say, bishop f3, everything is very solid. But here he plays rook fd1, which was a bit inaccurate in my opinion. Knight c4 played, so knights were exchanged. Rook takes, attacks the queen, queen comes to a5. Now if he plays, like, let's say, rook d7, then rook d4, b5, e3, and the position looks still reasonably equal and not enough counterplay. But after queen a5, Kasparov plays rook c5, which gives some counterplay for white, and white can slowly but surely gain something out of it at least. Well, queen b6, now rook d7, rook d4, queen c7, and here, if, let's say, instead of queen c7, if queen c6 was played, then queen b4 and a5, the queen goes to a4 or a3, and position would have been okay for both colors. There wouldn't have been a significant counterplay here for anyone. But Karpov here goes for queen exchange. He takes the queen, rook d takes, doubling on the c file, and here Karpov played h3. But let's have a look at the moves like e3 here with g6, h3, just waiting both sides, and now rook c4, rook 4 d3, king g7. Now after a3, this position would have been playable. Well, let's say the moves like bishop f5, tucking this rook away, and the position would have been okayish somewhat. But here Karpov waits. He plays h3. Kasparov does the same, waits with h5, and with this move also he stops this g4, which would have been pretty annoying, and in the end game would have been a useful resource for white to push this pawn and to keep some backward pawns here at the king side. So good move. a3, g6, e3, king g7, and here possibilities were just to play, let's say, bishop f1 in this position. Now the main aim, the main motif of this is to stop this rook c4 move, to control this c4 square, which would have been ideal, and after rook c8, let's say f3, again stopping another important move, knight e4, g5, g4, h g4, h g4, and after b5, white would still be better with good positional advantage on the king side, and there would be no real counterplay for black. And after king g7, if he plays, let's say, a casual move like knight takes d5, well, after knight takes d5, bishop takes d5, bishop takes h3, position is equal, and both players will shake hands and they'll be off. But here there was an inaccuracy on Karpov's part here, and he played king h2 here. Maybe he wanted to free his bishop on g2, which was protecting the h3 pawn, but this lets black play rook c4, and there isn't enough for white to create some play out of it. He tries bishop f3, b5, king g2. Well, if here he played rook 7 c5, if rook takes, rook c4, h4, rook takes, e takes, and again a handshake position, a drawing handshake position. But here Kasparov plays rook 7 c5, and after rook takes, there is another interesting thing here that Kasparov would have tried, is to play d takes c4. Well, after rook d6, a5, rook b6, knight d7, rook takes, knight takes, knight c5, there is no defense, knight d3 and knight b2. Black will gain this pawn and will hold this game quite easily. So after rook takes c4, plays rook d4. Now this is the same position that we saw earlier, but this is with black to move, and this is still equal. So king f8, bishop e2, rook takes, e takes, and now here was one of those critical moments in the game. Should black just attack or defend, or just to play solidly for a draw, so that black is out of danger, and if there would be any opportunity that it may follow, then only you should attack. So if black wants to play solidly and to defend well, he can play knight e4 here, and with bishop f3, knight takes, b takes, king e7, and this would be enough to draw the game, because pawns are at dark squares, white's bishop won't be able to attack it, and there would be no way that this white king can enter the black's territory from anywhere. But after e takes d4, he goes with king e7, so he's also trying to build something out of it, probably get this knight off for this knight, and with the same color bishop, and probably chances would be that Kasparov might convert this. So knight a2 in this position, bishop c8, knight b4, knight d6, and now a key move in this position. Well, in this position it is very easy to go wrong. That's if you say play like knight d3, then Kasparov can pounce on his chances and play knight e4. After f3, knight d2 is tremendous in this position. Let's move like knight e5, bishop e6, king f2, knight c4, and this knight looks very annoying indeed. And with this 2 against 3, if any captures happen, then pawn takes, and with 3 against 2 majority on the queen side, this could be actually winning somewhat for black. Probably unclear, but can create very good counter-attacking chances. So again, after king t6, it is very easy to go wrong, but Karpov was really, as I said, in a mood, and he just didn't look like making blunder at all. So he plays f3, excellent move, remarkable move in the position. It's incredible. The endgame prowess of Karpov is next to none, I would say, or I should say, is he the way he calculates the end games is it's totally out of this world. So knight g8 being played. So he's basically trying to deploy this knight from here to possibly here, and if given chance, then a knight may come to c6 and the position would be still better. h4, knight h6, king f2, knight f5, and after move knight c2, the game was adjourned and the arbiter called Kasparov, who had to seal the move, which move would be played after the recommencement of the game. So the game was adjourned here, and we would also like to take a little break and stay tuned for the part 2 of this wonderful game 9.